what it says is to help, dissipate the behavior of bullying, to help people understand that it really affects people's lives. It's not just a temporary thing. To accept accountability for their actions and to change the perception about accountability. That's a big one. That's definitely one of the biggest goals I have, because people associate shame and accountability together, and we'd like to change the perception on that, with people seeing it in a different way as such. Like if I tell the kids when I go to schools, if you see someone who's bullying another student or anybody else and they get caught, instead of shaming them and making them feel bad, encourage them to, figure out why they behave that way, because people aren't born that way. It's not normal for a person to get up, get dressed, go to school or go to work, and intentionally go into a room and start making somebody else's life miserable. It's not normal. So if you are encouraging to the person who gets caught because it's embarrassing, you don't have to be their friends. I tell them you don't have to be their friends. You don't have to hang out. But what you cannot do then is turn around and make them feel bad like the way they made the person feel bad. Encourage them to figure out what it is inside of them that's hurting them, that makes them react that way, that makes them think it's okay to lash out in anger and hurt somebody else. Why? To get to the root of the why. That's what I encourage them to do. That's one of the biggest goals. And just, for people to start understanding that we're all here to help one another. We're all here to be kind and compassionate, to love one another. And just see if we could do a turnaround on that. That's one of the biggest goals. And then how it grows and expands, I would love to see me be able to have find a place one day where we can have like support groups for people who have been bullied, because it's not just the victims that need to be healed, it's also the bullies, because bullies are hurt people. And we don't just focus on the victims, we focus on both, because we're talking about two people out of it. It's not just the victims. The victims, of course, we all have empathy for, we all want to help them. But like I said, it's not normal for somebody to wake up in the morning and lash out to another human being and hurt them physically, emotionally, mentally. It's just not normal behavior. So to try to take away the shaming factor, because people use shame a lot in society, whether it's about perceived flaws in another person or in any sense of the way. And positive behavior can be taught just as easily as negative behavior is, and bullying is absolutely learned behavior. It's learned, so it's time to unlearn it. That's the goal, is to take a more positive approach and educate people. That's my goal. The event that I have planned so far this year is the Anti-Bully Walk, the Infinite Love Anti-Bully Walk on October 10th at Clove Lakes Park. I believe the time would be, I'm not sure about the time, I think from 10 to 4, but the actual walk is only for 2 hours. I haven't set up those details yet, but I do have the permit, and we are on for October 10th. I'll advertise that when I have the details closer to the time. That's the only one I have now, because the pandemic has put a hold on everything else. Hopefully I'll be able to have a fundraiser of some sort. I usually like to combine the fundraisers as awareness events, and it's in the same. And offer people. I have legal advice that I offer people, a legal packet that I hand out to parents that was written up by a law firm that is my son's law firm. It's for tips for people that they absolutely should follow now. Taking their children to the pediatrician, documenting everything with their pediatrician, whether they have been physically attacked or not, have their child tell their pediatrician, because all medical records are considered legal documents. It's a paper trail. Any interaction with school, a teacher, I don't care who it is in the education system, I don't care who it is, has to be in writing. It must be in writing. If you're going to mail a letter out, do return receipt. It's important you have a record. Unfortunately, that's what it's come down to. You can't just have meetings, because the schools will deny that you had meetings with them, whether people want to believe that or not. Pay attention to your children. Look at their body language. Danny was a very happy boy. He went from a very happy boy, always joking around, smiling and vibrant, to a very round-shouldered, quiet kid that was like this all the time. And I just saw like the life, you know, slowly come out of him. It left him. His joy was gone. He was depleted. School, or any kind of religious school, any non-public school, even a private school, basically the law says that those children are not protected under the New York State anti-bully law, and the school and the staff do not have to abide by that law legally. With the New York State law, well, Assemblyman Daniel Donovan, who was the one who submitted the bill, I really can't say much about support with that. I've talked to many politicians with that. The ones who did had already signed on it, and I'm not sure where that is now, because I focus right now mostly on the federal law. Not Senate, that's for Congress.
Okay.
That is Danny's law, and that's on a federal level, and that is to create a round table. There's two parts of the law. We're going to create a round table, and we're going to basically build a case for the government with a bunch of experts, and hopefully I'm supposed to be on the round table. A parent who has lost a child to bullying. If we can find somebody who was a bully victim, and then the rest will be consistent of like psychologists, doctors, all experts in the field, to basically present a case to the government why we need an anti-bully law on a federal level. And the goal for that, on my mind, is to create an emotional literacy curriculum that's mandated across the country for every single school, which I did find something. His kindness. He was, Danny went to Catholic school, and he believed in the teachings, you know, of Jesus. Like, you know, Jesus loved all the little children. So what did Jesus talk about? He talked about being kind, being compassionate, have understanding without judgment. You know, the way we're all supposed to be. It has nothing really to do with a religious factor. It's just who you are as a human being. But he believed in that. You know, he was very, very kind. He had a good sense of humor. He's just a good person, a good kid, and he just wanted a friend. He just wanted a friend. You know, his sense of humor, I think, is what I remember the most, and his gentleness. And the little kids, like, he would go to early morning school. I would have to drop off to school early in the morning, and that was for kids of all ages. You know, for people who went to work, and the little kids would gravitate to him because he would be kind to them and he would have patience with them. And I noticed that about him. When I picked him up from school, I remember there was this one little kid in particular who ran all the way up to him, ran all the way down the block, and just to give him a hug, just because Danny was patient with him, and he was an older kid, and it was just unusual for a kid his age to have that much patience with the little ones. And I noticed that about him. I told him, I said, you might be like a good doctor one day, a pediatrician or a teacher or something. He was just very patient. The kids always gravitated towards him because he was kind. He was unusually kind, you know, for his age, and he was respectful, you know. And like I said, he had definitely a sense of humor at home. You know, we used to joke around a lot, you know. That's just a good kid.
And you said he wanted a friend?
He just wanted, he just wanted to be friends with people. He didn't understand. He never understood why, because there is no why. There is no excuse. You know, people often ask me that. Well, why did they bully him? That implies that there's a reason, and reason implies that it's a logical
justified
answer,
or something, yeah.
and it's not. So the excuses, whatever excuse they had in their head to be cruel to, bullies are insecure people. So I believe that they saw the goodness in his heart, and it triggered them somehow. You know, it was almost like a mirror of what they were not. So, you know, Danny was the light of my life. He was just a really a good kid, and he'll make a difference in this world. He'll make a difference in this world.
What were some?
He liked video games a lot. He liked football. He started playing football, and he joined the Boy Scouts, and he really enjoyed that too. He went away camping, and he had a good time. But the football he really started to enjoy, and video games. And he used to draw like these. He wasn't very good at drawing, but he would draw like these little comics in his books, like comics, almost like comic strips. He would do that, and he loved it when I cooked for him. That was one of his favorite pastimes. And movies. We used to watch like a lot of superhero movies. You know, like everybody does. You know, like the comic ones. That's what he liked a lot. Yeah.
Did he have a favorite song or a favorite food?
Foods. What always sticks out in my head is the deviled eggs. Every time I made deviled eggs, he would act like I was giving him filet mignon or something. He liked a lot of different kinds of food. I used to cook for him, and I enjoyed it because he appreciated it. What else did you ask? I'm sorry.
Favorite songs?
Songs. He had a lot of. He loved music. He liked a lot of different kinds of bands. He liked rock music. He would play guitar. He used to go across streets of rustic music, and he was learning how to play guitar. He liked the band Ghost. He liked Iron Maiden. He liked Dio. He liked a lot of rock bands. You know, the songs that we connect with him are Rainbow in the Dark. The new one, Disturbed, when they came out with Sound of Silence. That song he actually wrote about on an Earth Day project, and he's changed it for Earth Day. He changed the lyrics to go with Earth Day, and that was a big red flag for people that nobody caught, because it was how he felt inside. If you read the lyrics, it was, you know, how people don't speak up and say anything with the wrongdoing. He liked a lot of rock bands though, but Rainbow in the Dark, we correlate with him a lot, and The Sounds of Silence, I can't listen to it because it makes me cry.
Did he have a favorite saint?
Michael. Loved Michael. That was supposed to be his confirmation name. He used to pray for Michael. When he passed away, I found a lot of things that he wrote about, and he wrote, I put it on his Instagram page, how he practiced all the tools that he was taught to pray to God to help him with the bullying, and it didn't end. And he used to pray to Michael a lot. He was supposed to be his confirmation name.
Did he have a favorite religious story?
A favorite religious story? I wouldn't say a favorite religious story. More about just what he learned about the way we're supposed to. He really believed in what he learned. You know, when they talked about the stories, like a lot of little kids do, when you hear about the stories, you know, Jesus was a storyteller. So those, like he had a lot of faith. He had a very strong faith. and he believed in what he was taught, and he practiced it in his life. You know, all the good parts of it. Even with me, you know, like I remember a story when the story came out how Bin Laden was killed, and of course everybody's like, yay, yay, yay. And he was like, Mom. I'll never forget. He was like, Mom, that is so wrong. He was a human being, and I will never forget it, because it just was like a big jolt in me, and I was like, he's so 100% right. He's like, people should not be celebrating another person's death. He's like, he was a human being. And I said, you're right, Danny. You know, Danny was like a little Buddha. And he was my teacher too.
What would he have wanted for kids in his position?
Not to take the route he did. To hang on, to hope. I guess find somebody who will listen and will help him. I mean, the problem was that we went to everybody. We went to the teachers, the principals, his pediatricians. We took him to a therapist, a psychiatrist. I even went to the police. We made a police report against his bully because he fractured his finger. There was no arrest made, even though it was assault 3. He watched his parents go to everybody to help, and nobody helped us help him. So I think, like with the foundation, for me, to like find a way to have support groups for these kids to come together and learn to support each other. That's what happened last year when I had the first anti-bully walk. The vision I had in my mind is that I was hoping that kids would come, and I was hoping I could just have one kid share their story. And a brave girl came forward and she shared her story, and what happened was it opened up like a floodgate that day. And then slowly other kids just kept walking up to me and asking, can I share my story? Can I share my story? And all these kids just started taking the microphone and sharing their stories. And they all shared their story, and the crowd just sat and listened. And, you know, every story was hard to hear. But what happened after that is that all those kids who shared their stories connected with one another, and they all hung out with one another. It was like not just a support group from one another, because they understood, they all had a story, but it was like they made friends. They finally they had friends. You know, I hoped that they stayed connected, but it was an opportunity for them to develop that social setting that they need. They're considerate. They have manners. They're just a good person. His teachers, some of his teachers, like I had a lady who used to help in the school, and she would volunteer to help, and I met her personally. She said, I gave Danny a little Christmas present, or I gave Danny a little, you want to know why I gave Danny? And the other kids would ask how come he got it and they didn't? Because Danny would open the door and help me. When she would say, I need somebody to help me, Danny was always the first to get up and help me. Normal things that we're supposed to do for one another, and I guess that upset them or made them, you know, pissed. They found any excuse. I had to go out and buy him sneakers because they made fun of his sneakers. They made fun of his weight. They made fun of his haircut. They called him gay. Anything you can think of that might be construed to be meant in a derogatory way, they use that excuse. And my son was really intelligent, and he didn't care about his grade. It just, you don't care about school no more. How could you focus and excel in school when you're in a hostile environment? You can't thrive in a hostile. They've done experiments on it with plants. One plant is treated with love, the other plant is treated with abuse. One dies, the other one thrives. It's the same thing for people. More abuse abusive people, more abusive adults. More abusive adults who lack integrity, lack compassion.
So obviously these values would not be Christian or Catholic.
It has, I don't even think it has anything to do with religion, these qualities. I think it's just from a human being, from a soul point, from a soul. Everybody who has a soul, who has compassion and integrity, it's learned behavior. You know, it's just learned. It's seen. Whether you directly taught it, like, oh, this is what you do in this scenario, or they're just observing it in their environment. And it's not always, and everybody's like, it's the family, it's the family. It's not always the family. Kids spend most of their time in school. Okay, people seem to forget about that. Most of their days, most of their time, every week is in school. If you sit down and you really want to be literal and count the hours, most of their time is in school. Okay, so that's their dominant environment. Realize that, understand that, and focus on that environment. Make that environment a positive, healthy one. So if their family life is a negative environment, at least they'll have that as a sanctuary, a safe haven, which it is not anymore in any school. It's not just Catholic schools, it's in public schools do the same thing. Same thing. Justice? Well, nothing can give us what we want, you know, which is D.A.N.N.Y back, healthy and happy. So what do? I fight to see D.A.N.N.Y's law passed, to see an emotional literacy curriculum mandated into this country in every school, to teach people how to behave, conflict resolution, that it's okay if someone says something, to understand everybody's different. You know, what might upset you might not upset me. You know, everybody is different, everybody reacts differently. And to teach people and how to make the most of a scenario if that kind of things come, and understand that we're all human beings, and to definitely encourage compassion and empathy, kindness, respect. To see that pass, to see his foundation flourish, that it helps save lives. The goal is to save lives and change lives. I think that would be the justice for D.A.N.N.Y. That's all I can do. There's really nothing left to do but to honor his legacy and give him the respect in death that he did not get in life. And be remembered for the boy who loved love, because D.A.N.N.Y just loved love. And that's who he was. And that's why I do what I do for him. And I bring it with me every day, everywhere, even at work. I carry these thoughts and ideas in my head and my heart, and I practice them the best way I can every day of my life. I'm a human being too. I'm not perfect. I make mistakes. Everybody does. But what we cannot do is judge other people for them. We have to be supportive and just always try to encourage people to heal whatever hurts them, and to encourage them to become the best versions of themselves. Even those kids that hurt my son, I hope that they could come to terms and face the truth about themselves, heal whatever was broken in their hearts to make them behave that way, and not grow up into adults where they keep the cycle repeating, because that's a perpetual cycle. You know, we have to help the bullies too. People have a hard time with that. But those are the people that are broken, not just the victims. And then victims become bullies themselves. There was a scenario that came to me recently. There's a website called the Queen of the Click. And there was this social media thing going back and forth on this page, this Brooklyn page in Bay Ridge, with adults. This is all adults now. But what she decided to do, she said she had and I reached out to her and I tried to have a conversation with her over social media, and she was very rude to me. And she wrote this whole page on her website about her experience, I guess, and she actually put the people's names in parts of the thread, and it's been up there for 5 years though. And the issue I have with that is, first of all, she's a public school teacher, I come to find out. Second, she published these people's first names and last names on her website. And third is that it's only part of the story. She said she was, you know, attacked, or whatever she was. She was, I guess, verbally abused. I don't know. The thing is that we have to see the whole scenario to understand